Howdy Neighbors, and welcome back to our life. Last time I created my D&D character in this game, and we met some dude named Cove. And we are currently catching fireflies. I had a bandage on your thumb and tried to be cautious, had a bandage on your palm, had 2 bandages on your hand. You were good at not getting cuts and scratches, so you weren't too worried about it. She's clumsy. She was, more so. Right on close by, you approach it with assassin-like stealth, crouching down to make yourself seem like this for threat. Slowly dragging one foot in front of the other, you crept towards it, arms outstretched. You closed your hands around a little glowing orb. Careful not to crush it. Firefly landed on your palm, almost docile, and you stared down at your prize in delight. Your tiny legs tickled your skin. You giggled at the sensation. Cove kept up with his target. When he tried to grab it, the pink cast weaved awkwardly through the air, foiling his efforts as he clapped his hands around the firefly. Ugh. Cove watched as it vanished into thin air with a dissatisfied expression on his face. You encouraged him to try again. Walk up beside him and give him an encouraging smile. Cove didn't say anything, and you thought he must be upset. He walked further up the hill to continue his hunt. And let your own firefly flutter back into the air. It's fine. You had your own plans. Watch. You quietly take a seat among the flowers. The others were jumping and dashing all about. We saw how many times they succeeded and failed. How Shiloh was tripped a couple of times. It was a dramatic show, though around you it was calm. Lots of the stars and fireflies surrounded you peacefully. It was a beautiful night. You laughed quietly to yourself as you watched the others, and Shiloh finally managed to catch a firefly between his small hands. His eyes lit up, and when he spread his fingers to take a peek at it, the bug escaped and flew off into the air. You're like a kid. Aw. You watched as he pounced after it once more. Your eyes soon landed on Cove, but failed to catch a firefly yet. Cheered him on. You could do it, Cove. Cove smiled at you for just a moment before returning to the firefly he had been trailing with renewed enthusiasm. When Cove returned to hunting fireflies, you settled for laying back in soft grass, watching the poppies swaying around you and the fireflies hovering against the vast sky.
Come on!
Viola, Cove, get up here. We're gonna have a race. Trying to caught you off guard. It had been quite a while since you heard from Lizzie or Shiloh. You went over to see them both standing at the top of the hill again, Lizzie beckoning you with quick hand gestures. As she was like that, you knew there wasn't too much room for disagreement. Up the incline you went. In the corner of your eye you saw Cove was coming as well. He didn't care for Lizzie a lot, so you thought he might be intrigued just by the idea of a race. Hi! Hi. Cove, you can't roll down the hill. You could hurt your arm again. You'll be the referee for the rest of us. Lizzie pointed this out. Cove froze in place. Oh, it was that kind of race. He frowned down at his cast. It was the second time it got in the way tonight. What? Yeah, you watch and see who gets the bottom first. That's important. Got it? I guess. The cast was sturdy. If he was careful, he could have done it. Lizzie must have been looking for a reason to make someone else the referee. It was already decided. I'll start with Cove.
Really?
Really? Why? You don't have to. It's okay. I want to watch. You moved beside him on the top of the hill, even though Lizzie eyed you and made a face. That's how races work. You only need one referee. Shrugging your shoulders, you refused to budge, and Lizzie let out a huff before throwing her hands in the air. Fine. I'll be the winner whether you join or not. Lizzie moved to lay down, and Shiloh did the same. Cove stood slightly to the side to get a better vantage point, and you stood next to him. Count down. Cove stood up a little straighter. It seemed like he was taking his newfound referee duty seriously. 3, 2, 1, go. Lizzie and Shiloh took off, letting gravity do the work, and rolled at high speed toward the bottom of the hill. You and Cove leaned forward to watch them go, eyes peeled for which of the two of them could reach the bottom first. They were both neck and neck, until about halfway down the hill, Lizzie started to veer off to the side, giving Shiloh a huge advantage. She obviously didn't notice a thing, but as soon as Shiloh reached the bottom of the hill, he jumped up excitedly and threw his hands in the air. I won! Almost immediately, he fell back onto the grass, still dizzy from his roll down the hill. Lizzie stomped out from the bush she had ended up in, spluttering angrily and brushing leaves from the front of her dress. Not bad, you got lucky. Let's do it again and see who wins for real. Kids, it's time to come in. No! I like her earrings. I didn't notice them before. They're nice. And the bow in her hair. That's also nice. You snickered, feeling grateful you hadn't been part of this mini debacle. You caught Cove's eyes and saw that he was doing the same. You're welcome, Cove. Love you, man. It had gotten late and was beginning to feel just a bit chilly as you made your way out of the hills, where the cold air hadn't dampened anyone's spirits. The four of you walked back home together, side by side, down your neighborhood street, discussing the evening, with each person trying to prove that they were the one that caught the most fireflies. You knew that whoever really did catch the most didn't matter much anyway. All that mattered was that you all had a good time, which, judging by the smiles on everyone's faces, you did. Yay! Oh, and then some. I could just skip right through. That's fun. Sandcastle. Cove wasn't able to do many things that summer. When you, him, and Shiloh sat out at the shoreline one bright morning, you could tell that he wanted to be in the water. But there was no way he could be swimming anytime soon, not with his cast. The waves washed a single shell on shore, glittering in blue. Another reminder of the places he couldn't go. From what you heard about Cove's old life so far, in tiny pieces and fragments, you could tell that he'd do anything to be able to get the cast off. The possibilities of what he might get up to made you anxious. You thought about his summer last year. It must have been totally different from this. His old house and his mom and dad. But now he was here, with you and Shiloh, and Lizzie and everybody else. And he couldn't even go in the sea. If I can read, that would be fantastic. This time wasn't bad. It had all your favorite things in it. But sitting there on the same beach you'd grown up on, you could understand that not everybody felt the same way about Sunset Bird as you did. You watched it with the corner of your eye quietly as he finally said aloud what you had been pondering. I wish I could go in. The water? Yeah. Oh. I'm sorry. You're gonna be able to soon. Cove only sighed in response. Apparently soon wasn't soon enough. So pretty, the ocean. Mm-hmm. And huge. There could be anything out there, like mermaids. Yeah! Yeah! Shouldn't have the cast. I don't really care! Swimming might be fun if we could. I find here on land, memories aren't real. Let's see, Iris really likes the water, but she can't swim. So as you can see, I'm in a bit of a dilemma as to what I could do. Let me see. Because I don't want to be that much of an asshole. I could any day of the week. Might be fun. But it's not like there's anything we can do about it. Obviously not interested in hearing much more of my input on the situation, Cove turned back to the water. But as he looked away, something about Shiloh's slow, careful movements caught his eye. Are you building a sandcastle? Sorta. I was only playing around while you were talking. I'm listening. Maybe I could too. I've only made big piles before. It's really nothing special. I'm sure you'll be good at it right away. And how do you do it then? Shiloh's cheeks lit up. You could tell he was a bit uncomfortable to have Cove's expectant stare on him. I'll play too. Never really made one before. I like his hair stuff. Okay. He put his hands back to his seashells and sand and nodded. I don't do a lot. Here's how I like to get a house started. Shiloh focusing more intently than you'd ever seen him, guided Cove through his process. Happily use your own method. It didn't take long for the three of you to each have humble structures prepared. Oh, he is like in my grill. Get back up. Get away from me. That's it. Or that's all, kind of. You can do anything now, like make it bigger, add some seashells, carve a pretty pattern. I bet you'll have great ideas.
Okay.
You said, okay. I'm gonna make it bigger. Mine is gonna be a real castle. Cool, this is gonna be a house. Look at the busiest sandcastle you decided to make. Mansion. Look at the busiest sandcastle you decided to design a mansion. The better part of the next hour was spent focusing on your own work. The boys were the same. Even Shiloh didn't sneak as many peeks at everyone else as he usually did. You finished shaping before either of them, glancing up from what you had built. That's your mansion? Yo, that's sick! Seeing you had done so fast because they already stitched around for extra decorations. Shiloh grabbed most of the really interesting stuff, and Cove had a lot of shells, but there were still options. First thing you reached for was... piece of sea glass. It was the best fit for your mansion, you decided. It was see-through and sparkly. So you tucked it away somewhere secure inside, really poking out to make sure it didn't get lost. Pleased with the results, you took a proper look around that wasn't focused on the sand itself. Both Cove and Shiloh seemed super immersed still. You knew you could still probably sneak a peek at either one's work. Cove. The castle Cove had built was surprisingly tidy, especially for someone in a cast. He must have worked really hard. He wasn't even finished digging a huge gaping moat in front, but it was already enormous. You got the sense from the enthusiasm he was digging with that. Oh my god. You can sense from the enthusiasm he was digging with that the doctor was probably going to find a bunch of sand when he finally removed the pink plaster. The silence was unbroken. What's on top of yours, Shiloh? You peered closer and discovered something shiny sticking out of Shiloh's sand chimney. Oh, it's just a gum wrapper. It looks like smoke.
Great.
It's good, that's smart. Yeah, I didn't think of that. You really know a lot about this. Shiloh smiled without a word. And that was that for the current topic. Viola, can I see what you did? Sure. You can survey your work. All you really knew about mansions is that they're supposed to be big, so you had gone really big. It was the size of a country club that Lizzie played golf at, compared to Cove and Shiloh's buildings, probably even bigger. Shiloh quickly decided to jump into the new conversation. Hey Viola, what did you do? I made a mansion. It looks great. Your house is so big. Thanks. You're welcome. I don't know if it's the same as a house. Huh? Is being a house bad?
No.
No, but we each made our own place. Nobody is the same. I think we are. Clover's an eyebrow at that. If something is the only one of the thing, it makes it special. Yeah, for sandcastles and stuff. People too. My dad always says that everybody is their own man, a real individual. I don't think I'm very special.
Why?
Why not? Nobody else is you. Shiloh simply shook his head. I'm not different. A beat passed between the two. Cove then looked down at his own work again. Okay. He didn't seem to be bothered leaving the disagreement hanging there. Cove had other things on his mind. My dad tried to get me to make sandcastles the first time we came to the beach. I didn't want to. Cove trailed off. Again, there was another moment of silence. Shiloh shifted and opened his mouth to say something, but Cove spoke up before he could. You didn't think he noticed that Shiloh was going to talk. Hey, do you know what happened when your moms met my dad, Viola? You blinked, not expected the question. You thought hard. I wasn't there. They didn't tell me. I just remember what happened when I met your dad. Mr. Holden had been a weird stranger then. Well, he was still kind of strange. No other parent acted like him, but you knew him better at this point. Now that I thought about it, it would make a lot of sense that Cove's dad talked to him about people being unique. You were pulled through your thoughts when Cove continued. Oh, well, I was there. I don't think my mom has met your dad. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she hasn't. Viola's parents and my dad met the same day I met her. I'm going to say what happened. Shiloh frowned at himself, ducking his head. His hat cast a shadow over his face. You can still tell he was upset not being included in Cove's choice of topic. That was kind of boring for him. Though giving people their own turn to say things they want is important too. Stay silent. Shiloh could talk about stuff after Cove had a chance to share what he planned on. When we moved here, we didn't bring a lot of things with us. Only some stuff that would fit in Dad's car. We didn't even get a moving truck. I sat there while Dad brought it all inside. I didn't want to get out because I knew Dad would make me look around the new house. I really didn't want to do that. His lips twisted into a frown as he recalled that. And I saw your moms. They were in a car too and stopped at your house. I guess they were coming back from somewhere or something. My dad noticed. He waved his hand and then went over to the front of your house and he started talking to him. I don't know what they said, I couldn't hear it. But he couldn't see me anymore since he was looking the other way. So I opened the car door and left. I wanted to get away and went behind the houses. I found those hills there, the ones where we met for the first time. Cove nodded and stared at you. You stared back. He didn't go on to say anything more. Is that it? Cove's brows wrinkled, like he didn't understand why you were surprised. That's all that happened. Okay. You go, okay, why did you want to tell a story if nothing happened? You really gotta get better at telling stories. It's a very bad story. Thanks for telling me. Thanks for telling me. Your storytelling ability fucking sucks. You're welcome. Not much happened. You weren't gonna complain about knowing the story. Shell's mouth twisted into a scowl of disbelief, but he said nothing. Where'd you pick it up, anyway? A silent shrug from Cove's shoulders.
Wow.
I thought about it because of the sandcastle. You may remember when I moved here. Dad showed me the beach first, before we went back to the car to unpack. He was really excited about it for some reason. Cove's brows furrowed a little more as he quietly raked his hands through the sand. I get it. I thought maybe Mr. Holden wasn't that excited about the beach and instead hoping Cove might be. But the line of conversation had come to an end. Even Cove was done with it. Some other topic had popped to his head. Shiloh fidgeted uncomfortably in the sand. Fidgeting uncomfortably in the sand had made Cove aware of his presence again. They looked at each other, and you could only wonder what this might be about. Hey, Shiloh. Yeah? Why are you always turning so red, even when nothing is happening? That was a dick move. Clearly startled, he jerked away. The viewer Shiloh had expected that to be how he got included in the conversation again. Oh no, I guess. Okay, it's kind of weird. Shiloh's eyes were wide with embarrassment and his lips twitched, and he was blushing even harder than before. Maybe it wasn't only this. Perhaps it was simply the last straw. But it was a big deal to Shiloh. A huge deal. He didn't just look sad, he seemed almost panicked. You weren't sure if he was going to cry or run away. Just when you got your answer. Why do you wear glasses? Most kids don't wear glasses, and nobody is named Cove.
Who asked you to come?
Jeez! Who asked you to come? It was probably just your dad bugging Viola's family to make sure... Oh, some more, cause you don't have anyone else who will ever play with you. Cove blinked. She said the beach was suddenly uncomfortable in a way you didn't know to even mention. It didn't seem like the kind of thing he'd get upset about. Though you hadn't ever known what kind of thing would bother Shiloh. Sorry. You too, I was just wondering. Let's build another sandcastle. The day's gonna be over soon. Viola, you're right, the sun's going down fast. You went back to making more sand buildings, but the whole mood had changed. Shiloh's cheeriness was clearly gone, and Cove looked as confused as ever as to why the other boy had blown up. They stayed uncomfortable for the rest of the afternoon, up to the moment Shiloh's mom appeared at the beach to take him home. At least she tried to do something to resolve it, though. It seemed like it helped. Even though Shiloh's smile when he said goodbye to Cove wavered, it stayed as bright as ever for you. That had to count for something. But when Shiloh was gone and the sun was going down, you knew it was time for you and Cove to head back to your own houses. You followed him as he made his way out of the sand. The welcome was quiet. You passed by familiar landmarks. She was thumbing against the sidewalk in near perfect unison. Cove was clearly caught and thinking about something. What you thinking about? The prospect of asking made you nervous, but you did it anyway. Is everything okay? No, I was just wondering. Cove fell silent again for a few seconds and then sighed. Why did Shiloh act like that? When I said he was all red a lot. You rude him, he's just a baby, you shouldn't make fun of him. I don't know, he gets embarrassed. Embarrassed? But I didn't say anything bad. It might have upset him anyway. I guess I can get that. Why would he do that? Sometimes I get really mad too. Despite seemingly coming to a conclusion, Cove's mood was still sour. What Shiloh said didn't make sense anyway. Parents always talk to other parents and set stuff up for their kids to play together. My dad didn't do anything weird. He struggled not to make a face at that. His dad definitely did something weird to try to get you to spend time with Cove. But Cove didn't know that. Your dad does do stuff, so you'll hang out with your family, but Shiloh shouldn't have said that. So I had to tell him that his dad offered money. Because the dad said no, don't do that. I say, tell him now. And then it won't be so terrible later. Oh, but that can ruin the relationship with the dad. Fuck! There's so many factors. Remember we talked about how our parents met and I didn't know what happened? Yeah? I kinda had something happen that you don't know about when I met your dad. You struggled to find the right words. Cove looked at you passively. You wilted under his gaze, breaking eye contact. You stared at the ground. I was walking home and your dad was sitting in front of the house. It may have been after you ran away. My moms weren't there either. I think they were looking for you. Your dad saw me. He got up and came over. Mr. Holden told me that he just moved to the house next to mine. Just took a look at Cove. He was still listening, his expression as plain as before. Pause for a moment, wondering if you should really keep going. Do it, bitch. Even if it was supposed to be a secret, you thought Cove should still know. Your dad wanted you to have a friend, so he offered me money, $20. Cove was so still, he thought he hadn't heard you. Then his eyes widened. His mouth full open, but no sound left him. Silence just between you, so tense that it was almost tangible. You stood from one foot to the other and your hands tensed up. Cove? Instead of speaking, he closed his mouth. His eyebrows bent, crinkling on his forehead. He looked more sad than surprised now. He was going to cry, you were certain of it. I didn't take it. The money, I didn't want it. Honest. Cove raised his hands and brought them right under his glasses. His fingers pressed over his eyes, holding them from your sight. Then, right in the middle of the street, tears began to fall. His shoulders shook with the force of his sobs. You caught glimpses of wetness from his cracks of his fingers slipping down his cheeks. Opened your mouth, but I had no idea what to say. Stay by him. You couldn't go anywhere with Cove in this state. But Cove shook his body from side to side, rejecting your presence.
No!
Go away! Flushed with the shout. As you stood there listening to him cry, you felt bad about everything. We used to make sandcastles at the beach. Before Cove was sad, before Shiloh was mad. Everything had been so much better then. Cove continued to weep with his face covered in his hands, wrists, his voice raised in volume. You were frozen in place. The situation was awful and you kept feeling worse every second. Sorry. He spoke earnestly. It was all you could do, and it wasn't enough. You heard the door opening and you flinched, looking to see one of the main old grandparents preparing themselves to yell at you. At this hour, most people weren't around, either because they were working or down in town. But the grandparents rarely left the house, except to complain about kids making noise in the street. With the ruckus Cove was making, you could kind of understand why they might be objections, even if you couldn't help it. But the door that stood open now didn't belong to the grandparents. To your utter surprise and relief, it was Cove's own. His dad was already home. As he peeked at the door, Mr. Holden momentarily looked unsure. Perhaps he had suspicions on the noise outside, but wasn't entirely positive. A kid crying is pretty distinct, and there aren't a lot of kids. Maybe he didn't want to believe something was wrong with his son. His face fell as he spotted the source of the commotion. It was pained and it was scared. It reminded you of the one he'd worn the first night you met Cove. Mr. Holden didn't come down the stairs in front of his house. He just jumped right over them and stumbled into a run. He skidded to a stop before Cove, and he bent down on one knee and solidly cupped Cove's teary face in his hands.
What's wrong?
What's wrong? You hurt anywhere? Cove continued to cry, unable or unwilling to cough out an explanation. Not taking his hands from Cove, Mr. Holden turned to you for explanation, his eyes wide and imploring. He wanted to know if you tried to make me hang out with him. I told him about the money. As he spoke, Mr. Holden's chest rose as he inhaled a deep, shaky breath, accumulating in a gasp at your final words.
What?
Why? Why would you... He clamped his mouth shut, shaking his head. He faced his crying son again. No, it's my fault. I shouldn't have done something like that in the first place. He cast his eyes down, sighing. When he next spoke, it wasn't part of the conversation anymore. It was barely loud enough for you to catch his words. Val was only a kid. Tears were streaming down Cove's face. Smiling sadly, Mr. Holden wiped Cove's cheeks with his thumb. He furrowed his brows and looked at the ground. When he next glanced up, his mouth was set with determination. Mr. Holden finally took his hands off Cove. He reached for his wallet. Confused, you stared at the little rectangle that all the adults seemed to carry in some shape or form. It had been the source of these problems. You were sure that Cove wouldn't want to be reminded of it right now. Mr. Holden was clearly of a different mind to you. He unexpectedly retrieved another $20 bill, rolled it up, and raised it to Cove's face. Cove's eyes were hidden behind tightly clamped fingers, and Mr. Holden poked Cove's nose with the bill. Cove peeked between his hands and grunted as he saw what he had been prodded with. Even if it was surrounded by sobs, you were glad that something else had finally left Cove's mouth.
Come on.
Hey Cove, can you stop crying? I'll give this catch if you do. What? Cove dropped his hands from his face. He had already been red and wet with tears, but now his features were scrunched in a scowl. Now for the first time, you questioned Mr. Holden's tactics. He had to use two hands, but Cove firmly shook his dad's own hand away. But Mr. Holden just chuckled at Cove's reaction and tossed the money aside, and unfurled and flew through the air, rising before slowly drifting to the floor. Mr. Holden took Cove's outstretched wrists and lowered them to Cove's side, stopping him from hiding his face away. What the fuck? Is happening? Cove's dad clearly wasn't going to let go. Huffing, Cove turned his whole head away, tears continuing to roll down his cheeks as he glowered at the ground. You could buy a lot of cool things with that, but it can't do anything, can it? Cove didn't respond, not even to look at his father. Mr. Holden continued. Your old dad likes to make things nice for you with the money he earns, but you're smart. You know that I haven't really done anything.
I'm sorry.
I still made you sad and upset. Just like right now. I'm sorry. Literally, what the fuck? Cove sniffled, the harsh line of his brow mellowing. Mr. Holden squeezed Cove's hands as he continued. Viola's smart too, right? Mr. Holden spoke in a soft, encouraging tone, and Cove continued to calm. You have nothing to worry about. Except for me. Mr. Holden chuckled. Cove pressed his lips together, mulling over his father's words. The stream of tears had eased. Drops still budded in his eyes and threatened to spill out. I love you, son, so much, more than anyone else. Sometimes it makes me a little too hasty to see you happy, and I make it all worse. I'm really sorry. Stretching his eyes tight, Cove nodded. When his eyes opened again, they were red and glossy. There were no tears left on the precipice of his lower lashes. Aside from the occasional sniff, he had mostly back to his usual self. He swallowed. Okay. The Cove had refused to echo Mr. Holden's exact words. Sentiment seemed to be enough for his dad. He moved his hands up under Cove's armpits and hoisted Cove high into the air with a grin. Cove's hands flew to his glasses, holding them back from falling off. Cove's lips were shut tight, all betrayed by the telltale smile in his eyes that he was trying so hard to hide. Mr. Holden laughed, lowering Cove so that he was securely pinned against his chest. Cove looked away, face angled to the ground. Now that his dad could no longer see him, he allowed himself to smile. Mr. Holden might have missed it, but you didn't. Cove wriggled, pushing his hand against his dad's shoulder. Can I go back down now?
Yeah.
Mr. Holden set Cove gently on the ground, waiting until his feet found their footing before losing him entirely. I have to do something. Wait here. As Cove wandered away, Mr. Holden's gaze stuck to him like glue. He sighed, eyes downcast. It felt weird that you'd only been able to stand there while the event unfolded. You weren't able to fix it. Couldn't do anything. Don't worry about it, please. We don't need another tragedy today. He winked, and you weren't impressed. Hey, I mean it. The first part, anyway. There's only so much you can do to try fixing someone else's mistake. He smiled sincerely at you. You've done plenty for Cove. Just the fact that you were honest with him when his own dad wasn't proves it.
That's a relief.
Thanks for being such a good kid. I hope you'll keep spending time with the boy. As the sound of his name summoned him, Cove returned, clutching the bill his dad had cast aside earlier. You ducked your head, and Cove's dad raised his eyebrows. Cove looked at the crumpled note and walked over and held it out to you. I stopped crying, but I don't want this. You can have it. He gave a small smile. Behind him, Mr. Holden was still watching Cove closely, clearly relieved. You shared the feeling. Cove was making peace with the deal that happened behind his back. Decided not to take it. In your head, you pushed the note back to Cove. I don't need it. But I want it. You're at a stalemate. Mr. Holden hummed thoughtfully. Tapping his head, he gazed up at the white sky as he pretended to give the conundrum serious consideration. I know. Hooked the bill from Cove and tore right in two. What in the fuck? You and Cove gasped in unison. Dad, we can't do anything with it now. True, it won't work as a story like this, but you can split it. Reaching down, he held out the pieces to you and Cove. Both looked at the two halves. Neither of you reached for them. It still has value, as a keepsake, a memory. And that's one of the most valuable things you can use money on.
So...
That sounds pretty good, huh? Maybe I'm getting smarter. Ruthlessly, Cove reached out a hand and took his half. You took yours, running your fingers along the jagged edge of the bill. The deal. Mr. Holden stood up, stretching his arms out casually. Well then, it's about time for dinner. Me and the RHard are gonna be going in. You probably should too. I bet your moms want to see you. Okay?
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks very much.
Have a good night. Thanks, Viola. Father and son waved at you as you turned and dashed back home. The note clutched tightly in your hand. You felt lighter. That's fun. Which one's next? I guess we are kind of going this way. Let's go a long day. It was another scorching summer day. The kind where no sooner had you finished one cup of water, you were already filling it up again. Everyone had something on. So that afternoon, it was just you and Shiloh. It doesn't happen much, especially since Cove had arrived. Without Lizzie around, Shiloh looked at you for all the answers. It made you feel... nothing really. Kinda went along with whatever you wanted. So he wasn't a bother, but he also wasn't that much fun. You drained yet another drink in front of the empty vessel. Your thirst is gone, but you're still craving something icy cold and refreshing. Something sweet, something like... Oh my god. She loves sweets. Like, in actuality, she will go fucking nuts. It's the sweetest thing here. It's not a popsicle. Popsicles are not necessarily sweet. Ice cream? Like, just the ice cream itself, you know? That can be kind of sweet, depending on the kind. I think ice cream sandwich, though, is the sweetest. You've heard soft ice cream sandwich between two cookies. Hell yeah, baby. Except I don't like ice cream sandwiches personally. They get soggy and gross. There's nothing like that to be found in the house. You knew that without needing to look. Your mom still keeps sweets in the house. Mom, no! Dude, even I keep sweets in my room. I have like Jolly Ranchers and I have Pocky in this room right now because I know that I'm gonna run out of energy at some point and I need something fast. Okay, who does not have like an emergency supply of sweets for like if something were to, like if you were to run out of energy or if like you forgot to eat and you just need something? I cannot be the only one that thinks like that. It cannot only be me. Okay. Tangent over. Outside there was plenty of places where such goodies could be obtained. But they were shops and demanded payment in exchange for their products. He sighed. As much as you wanted that treat, it wasn't going to happen. What's wrong? I want an ice cream sandwich. Shiloh, who had been draped over the sofa, perked up. Yeah. That sounds good. If you don't have any, you don't have any money. Oh, let me check if I have any. Shiloh rummaged through the backpack and proudly produced an assortment of coins, plus one stray button. He set the button aside and counted the coins in neat piles. Just over $1. We announced this to Shiloh. He had almost certainly come to the same conclusion, but he'd been watching you expectantly. It's not enough. Sorry. I'm sorry. We'll need to find some more. Okay. Two of you lifted couch cushions, stuck tiny hands down deep crevices in the sofa and under the furniture and scouring the back of drawers. Most of what you found was useless or gross. Bent paper clips, fuzzy wisps of dust or sandy crumbs, but every so often, one of you would strike silver or bronze and add it to the growing pile of coins. Dusty and disheveled from checking every room, squinting into every nook and cranny. Each of you finished pulling your funds. Shiloh held his breath as you counted the coins once again. $2.53 and 2 buttons. You don't know where the second button had decided to join the party, but you were too pleased with your successful haul to throw it out. Is that enough? He figured he knew the answer without looking at you for confirmation, but the thrill of your success and the reward that would follow canceled all other feelings you might have had about that. Ice cream sandwich. Yeah! You can now afford something at the shops. Just one thing. But it was infinitely better than none. Shiloh clapped his hands. Yay! Few of you dashed outside. The promise of sugar buoyed you on your destination here. Breathless, but happy, you stared at the overwhelming number of options. You knew what you wanted, but it wasn't just you who contributed to the funds of the treat. You didn't notice your pause. Aren't you getting an ice cream sandwich? Shiloh asked, as though he was entirely separate from the decision, as someone with a stake in the outcome. Do you mind? Shiloh cocked his head to the side. It was your idea, you should choose. Try to get something both of you want anyway. It wasn't fair that for you to be the only one to decide when he's the main factor making this happen. Some of the money came directly from his backpack. What do you like? All of them. They're so good. He pressed further. What do you really like? Popsicles or ice cream? Which one is your favorite? It's hard to pick, I don't know. Frustrated, you cut to the heart of the matter. Do you want me to choose? Yeah. And that was that. You got the dessert you wanted originally and hoped Shiloh would actually like it too. Finally, the reward for all your hard work was in your hands. You bit the ice cream sandwich. The chewy chocolate biscuit complemented the creamy vanilla ice cream inside. You held it out to Shiloh so that he could have a turn, but he shook his head. You can finish it. He didn't want any? After everything he did to get it? That's so weird. Try to include him. Even if Shiloh said that he was okay, every story you'd see on TV or read in a book said that sharing is caring. You stood your ground. Even as the treat started to trickle dangerously toward your fingers. It's only fair that you have some. You bought it. But you want it more than I do, and getting to play was a lot of fun already, so you could have it. It's more fair. Held it out to him. I want you to have even more. I want you to have some even more than I want to finish it, so eat your part. Fortunately, Shiloh took the treat and gave it a taste. His eyes lit up. It's really good, thank you. He smiled, pleased at your good deed. You picked the best one. I didn't mean that. Shiloh was always nice no matter what happened. Even if he hated it. You know, that's something he would say. Maybe he thought it was gross. The real reason he didn't want to taste them. He had no idea. So did him as he ate a little more. He had every appearance of enjoying himself. Still weird. He began to head back home as he ate. You walked side by side at the shore in silence. Your thoughts kept drifting to the boy beside you. Why didn't he speak up for himself? It's almost as if Shiloh didn't know how to say what he felt or was afraid to. Are we friends? Shiloh's eyes opened wide, seemingly caught off guard by the blunt question. Yeah, I think so. He says that, but friends should be able to talk to each other without being scared. If Shiloh wouldn't do that, were you really even friends at all? He rubbed his hands together nervously over your non-reaction. I'm sorry. You weren't sure how sorry he could be without knowing what he's even apologizing for, but you shook your head. You didn't do anything. It was true. Shiloh hadn't done something mean. He'd gone out of his way to make you happy. That didn't seem like something like it should be a bad thing, yet it bothered you. I just don't know if you like me. It's like it doesn't matter what I do, you can act the same. I could be anyone and you wouldn't care. No, I like you. I really like you, Viola. I want to be friends. Okay. He smiled hesitantly at him, and his fidgeting ceased. Even though you weren't sure if you could believe him. This was only making things worse. You decided that maybe there were all types of friends. If Shiloh wasn't able to do things differently, this would have to be alright. Shiloh made you unsure about setting a label on the experience of spending the afternoon with just him. There are good times and there had been confusing ones. You were positive about one thing at least. The tree was delicious and that was nice. The sun was low on the horizon as you returned to your neighborhood. There you spotted two familiar figures up ahead, Lizzie and Cove. You opened your mouth to make your presence known to them just as you saw the tears in Cove's eyes. You walked straight over, Shiloh at your heels. Once you're there. Without a time machine, the only way you know what was going on was to asking the witnesses. Lizzie might have done something, but she could have been in the wrong place at the wrong time, or even came to Cove's aid. You wanted to hear the story. Cove, what happened? Viola, I got yelled at. She took a deep, steadying breath. Some grandparents got mad at me. Oh, sorry. Lizzie jerked her head in the direction of the nearby house. Your heart sunk. You knew exactly what had happened. Every year, the same mean old couple rented out the condo in the summer. You, Lizzie, and Shiloh knew to stay away from them, but Cove couldn't have. They're like that with everyone. Even your mom struggled to find anything nice to say about them. The elderly pair particularly took offense to kids. Yeah, Lizzie said. Lizzie drew herself up at that. She looked pointedly in your direction. Uh-huh, I was helping. That's cool. Is there anything I can do? No, I'm just gonna stay away. Or you could teach them a lesson. There's a devilish glint in her eyes. What? You should ding-dong ditch them. Go ring the doorbell and run. That'd be great because they're so slow. They'll never catch you. That's dumb. You don't want to go near them ever again.
We're just saying that because you're a chicken.
voice you did not hear. The voice actor said, "You're saying that because you're a chicken." Oh no! Oh, he's a chicken. That is fantastic. Cove glared, but didn't take the bait. Lizzie turned to you. You're not a chicken, are you? Yep, clock clock. You'd rather just avoid them. Thought they deserved worse. Rather just avoid them. He looked at the house. Beyond the closed doors lurked two beings, rich in years but poor in patience. Maybe they deserved retaliation. Maybe they didn't. But that punishment wouldn't be coming from you. Safer to stay away from them. You could live without the hassle. I'm not doing it either. Another chicken for the coop. It's a hen house now. 4 chickens? You're a lizard, Lizzie. She wagged her tongue in his face. What? Ew. So better than bird brain. Chicken. Front door opened, revealing one of the 2 culprits. The old man's wizened face was set in a scowl, which was to say he looked exactly like he always did when you saw him. Maybe that was his normal face. What are you kids doing loitering outside my house? Maybe he was always just in a terrible mood. Nothing. Nothing? He repeated the word as if it was the greatest crime anyone could commit. Nothing good, more like get lost. It wasn't as if he owned the space outside of the house, but Cove's eyes, still red from his earlier tears, were wide, and you thought it was best to heed the old man's command. As he took off, Shiloh immediately trailing after her without so much as a glance back in your direction. So much for your friendship. You waved your arm at Cove, summoning him to follow you, and ran after Lizzie. The old man's hollers propelled you off from the street to the sanctity of the hill. Once you were safe... only once you were safe did you notice the stitch in your chest and the ache in your legs. You flopped down, the blades of grass tickling your face. Lizzie, who had taken the lead in the end, was already lazing on the ground. Before you took a moment to catch your breath and enjoy the feeling of the cool grass against your skin.
Cove.
Hey, Cove! Cove lifted his head. I told you there were mean grandparents around here. Cove rolled his eyes, then decided this wasn't dismissive enough. He rolled his whole body away from your sister. A couple of nerds. Lizzie chose to ignore his response and started chatting with Shiloh, who eagerly joined in the conversation. In the back of your mind, you knew you'd be second fiddle again to Shiloh once Lizzie came around. It always went like that. And that was fine. Shiloh could prefer Lizzie as much as he wanted to. You closed your eyes, laid on your side and relaxed. Some time passed with you like that. It felt good to take a real break. Moved onto your back with a small smile and looked at the darkening sky. The blanket of clouds reminded you of the thick throw you curled up under on cold rainy days. I wonder if the clouds would be as soft. They lazily floated on by, splitting from one another, merging and morphing into new shapes. You saw cloud shapes. You nudged Cove and pointed at the sky. What did that look like? Cove looked up at the sky, angling his head back and to the side. Finally he shook his head. I don't see anything. Really? Yeah, what do you see? Clouds! Me. That is something I would do. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, there we go. He chuckled at that. All the sun's light faded from the sky and the moon rose higher. Lizzie got to her feet, dusting strands of grass from her bare legs, and surveyed her surroundings. The ocean, visible from the crest of the hill, beckoned with every sweep of the tide. Let's go to the beach. There was no argument from the other two. Shiloh was still Shiloh, and Cove could never say no to going to the shore. He was a child of the sea. You. Wanted to go there too. So he eagerly joined the others in descending the hill down to the water. We stepped out of the sand for the second time that day, but it felt different at night. The beach was nearly quiet at this hour. Abandoned sandcastles and footprints in the sand, too big to belong to any of you. The only indication of how busy it was in the hours earlier. The four of you kicked off your shoes and removed your socks and walked along the water's edge. The waves tickled your feet. I wonder what would happen if you tried to take a bath in the ocean with shampoo and everything. That'd be bad for the fish.
Jeez.
I didn't say anyone would do it. Jeez. You don't have to be serious about everything. You're the one who asked what would happen. That is what would happen. It'd hurt the fish. I like bubble baths at home. They're a lot of fun. Me too. Bubble baths are luxurious. I never heard Lizzie use those words before. Mommy loves to have bubbles in her bath. She turns the lights off and has candles. I'm gonna do that next time. Hey, why'd your mom come to pick you up anyway? For a while, she's busy. What about your dad? How come you never talk about him? Nobody does. Don't you know you're not supposed to talk? Don't you know you're not supposed to ask something like that? Who would... Oh. Why would somebody want to talk about something they never talk about? You kept your eyes on the ground, watching your toes get swallowed by the waves. Even if Shiloh never seemed upset when this topic came up, it made you feel awkward just having both of your moms. It's okay. I'm like the same Viola. I don't have a dad. But I don't have two moms, I just have the one. She's really great. Oh, sorry. I only have one now too. My mom was in here. She's back home, it's just my dad and me.
Sorry.
Oh, I never had a dad or anything. So I don't feel bad. It's really sad that your mom's gone. Cove nodded. No! And if we're all different, our parents are good in their own ways. I didn't say anything. Yeah. Cove couldn't muster a response. You don't think he truly disagreed, though. The silence broke with a splash of Lizzie kicking in your direction. Cold water and some sand splattered against your legs. Lizzie giggled, foot still outstretched from the kick. Cove joined in, striking the incoming waves with a splash of his own. Shiloh scurried out of Cove's spray zone with a grin. Already too dirty and wet for comfort. Nothing that happened there would feel as good as getting dry. You got out of the water before anyone could catch you again. Pushing on a rock, you stripped the wet sand from your legs as you watched the others. The sand came away in thick chunks at first, like clay. But where it had been thinner was already dried and clung to your skin. Cove and Lizzie were relentless. Shiloh mostly just dodged. Shiloh's brief exclamation was drowned out by the biggest splash yet, causing him to fall face first onto the ground. That would have been bad enough without the wave that followed, cascading over his prone body. Shiloh sat up, shaking his head like a dog coming from the rain, as you all hurried over to check on him. His hair was plastered to his head, and his soaked clothes clung. You can't do birds. If there was any part of him that was still dry, you couldn't see it. That was crazy, are you okay? Yeah, my foot got stuck and I fell over.
You Dumbo.
Way to go, Shiloh, you Dumbo. Shiloh didn't take your outstretched hand. After a moment, you dropped it. This was too busy staggering to notice. Held her hand Ouch, Shiloh too. He reached and took that one! Slowly he started to pull himself from the ground. And he slipped on the slick sand again, bringing him and Lizzie down just in time for another wave to hit. Water rolled over them.
Sorry.
Sorry. What are the odds of that happening twice in a row? We thought they must be low. But there was no way Shiloh would do something like that on purpose that pretend it was an accident, especially not to Lizzie. Even if your relationship with Shiloh was unclear, he did at least like her a lot. Lizzie was his favorite, right? Smiling boldly, Lizzie extracted herself from the ground and wiped the streak of sand from her cheek. She didn't intend to let this embarrass her. Shiloh had gotten up as well, this time without incident. He still looked like a drowned puppy, but that didn't stop Cove from laughing at the two of them. With that, it was time to call it a day. The four of you made the journey back home, leaving a trail of wet footprints and sand in your wake. Damp clothes must have weighed down some of the group, but your spirits were high. Your arms swung side to side as the cool breeze flowed past. Your moms were outside, chatting with Cove's dad. We're back! Your mom's faces fell as they looked at the state of you all were in. Ragged from messy to soaked.
Now.
Elizabeth, is that all you have to say for yourself? You brought half the beach back with you. They clearly did. What's a Marigold going to say when she comes to get Shiloh? Is that how you want him to be after a long drive home, cold and filthy? Lizzie's expression turned sulky over the scolding. Being the oldest could be fun, but it meant that she was the first to get in trouble when something went wrong. Mr. Holden, on the other hand, chuckled as he ruffled Cove's matted hair. You're not making memories, bucko? I'm glad you had a good time with your friends. Cove used his slightly moist cast iron to push his dad off. Mr. Holden's eyes widened when he noticed that it had gotten wet. Now he was worried too. I think they could have found a less risky way to spend time and have just as much fun. That might be right. Kids, what can you do? Oh, kids, what can you do? Come on, Cove. Let's get you cleaned up and dried off. We wouldn't want that cast to have to be reset. Cove winced at the thought. Okay. Attaboy. Mr. Holden casually bent down and plucked Cove up off the ground, ultimately holding Cove against his chest. Sand was already transferring from Cove onto him. That didn't seem to bother Mr. Holden. Cove protested being carried, but only got a reassuring pat on the back for his trouble.
Take care.
Good night, Cove. Thank you for the talk, Cliff. Night, Bell family, and Shiloh too.
Fine.
Well, we better do what we can to fix you guys up too. Come on, everybody inside. I want you to march straight to the downstairs restroom. Yes, Mom. Okay, Liz's mom. Don't worry about stopping to wipe your feet on the mat this time. It won't do much good tonight. Sitting on an old beach towel your mommy had found, you waited in the hall. Until you were less sandy, you weren't allowed to go to your room or walk around the house. But you did get to eat a sandwich for dinner there. It felt like an indoor picnic. It had been decided that Shiloh would wash first and borrow some of your clothes. He had already finished and packed away in his mom's car. Ms. Fields had come to collect him a little while ago. It was a bit of a funny experience seeing him without the hat for once. Lizzie, being much more soaked than you, got to go to the tub next. It wasn't a bubble bath that she had hoped. There was a no fun allowed cleanup session. At least that's what she called. Not much longer and it would be your turn. When the bath was done, you'd have to go right to bed. After a day like this, though, you were glad that there weren't going to be any further events. Drifting off to sleep sounded like a great idea. And with that, I'm going to end the episode here. Making a lot of memories here. So thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you later.